So, hi, Christina. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. Today, we're going to be talking about early years literacy and early education and care. But before we delve deeper into that topic, could you just briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Angela. Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, my name's Christina and my title is the Children's Programs Coordinator. So what that means is that I run the programs for the children and their families in the community. So Cumberland City Council runs 16 education and care services, and I look after all of the children and families that don't attend those services. So we run activities and programs for the children who may not access care within the community, to put it simply.
Okay, great. So we hear the term early years literacy mentioned a lot.
Yep.
Could you just explain briefly what does that actually mean and why is it so important?
Absolutely, it is very, very important. And when we say early literacy, it's not necessarily about having your children read and write from 2. Early literacy pretty much just means how you engage with your child. So the Paint the Town Red philosophy is to sing to, play with, touch, cuddle, and read to your child from birth. So it's never too early to start exposing your children to literacy. So by that, it means singing songs. So singing songs, and when you're changing nappies or feeding, talking to your child from birth, even if you think that they have absolutely no understanding of what you're saying, as little as, a few weeks old. Every time you do that, every time you engage with your child by touching, singing, playing with them from birth, it creates brain connections inside their brains, and it does set them up for being able to talk and learning to read and write in the future. So you may think that it's, what am I even doing reading a story to my newborn? But it creates those brain connections, which then sets them on the right path to be able to learn to read and write once they get to school. So setting them up in that 0 to 5 age range really does give them that boost once they get to school.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the research that's coming out or has come out has shown that a lot of brain development in children happens in those first 5 years of life. So there's
Definitely
a lot of, if you like, a lot of opportunities, as you mentioned, for parents to strengthen that brain development. One of the most common questions I get asked in playgroups, because a lot of our families don't speak, or maybe English is their second language, and they're a bit concerned about their child starting school and not, being able to speak English. Is it okay for them to use their mother tongue when they're singing or reading or to their child?
Absolutely. It is something that we recommend for you to engage and speak to, sing to, read to your child in the language that you are most comfortable with. It does set them on the right path. Like, even though they're not speaking English by the time they get to school, they're fluent in one language, which is, as I said, important for those brain connections. So just because it's not English doesn't mean that they haven't made that connection in their brain. So we do often encourage families to sing to, speak to, and read to their children in their mother tongue and the language that they're most comfortable in. By the time they get to school, or even by the time they get to preschool, they are surrounded by English. And they do pick up English very, very quickly once they start kindy or preschool. So it is something that they will pick up really, really quickly. So you're not giving them a disadvantage or harming them at all by engaging with them in your mother tongue. It also does give them that really beautiful connection to their heritage and their culture. Because I know sometimes a lot of people lose that once they get to a new place or a new country, and that connection to back home, I guess, is lost a little bit. So, and they will have other people in their lives, so grandparents and older aunties and uncles that will only speak that language. and for them to have that connection and that tie with them is really, really important to maintain that. So
most definitely. We're also talking about early education and care.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like, and what are the benefits of children or for children in attending those settings?
Yeah, so early education and care has a few different service types. So when we say that, we're talking about long day care. So a long day care centre is usually opened from 7 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening. That's roughly the most generic time that they open. Some are a little different around those times. And it is predominantly utilised by families who are working. So they need care, so they're working, they have a long day care centre or a childcare centre that they take their child to. They usually offer food, so they will have a full menu, so breakfast, lunch, morning and afternoon tea, and then a late afternoon tea. And they do have to offer an educational program. Then there is also that preschool service type. So that preschool is only usually open from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. So the school hours, the traditional school hours, they're only open during school terms, and children 9 times out of 10 have to bring their lunch from home. So it is very much that before school service. So they only usually take children from 3 to 5 years. So they don't take anybody under 3 usually. And that's that really getting ready for school time is the preschool, the traditional preschools. There's also occasional care and family day care. So occasional care is something that you utilise only when you need it. So you can usually pay by the hour. So just say, for example, you need to go to a meeting or you're attending a training course or something like that. You can leave your child at the occasional care service for only the time that you require it and only pay for that time. And family daycare is a mixture of long day care and occasional care. You can do pay by the hour. They usually charge you by the hour, so you can only utilise it for the times that you need, or you can book in for a full day and be a working parent and have your child there for the full day. Family daycare is where an educator will look after up to 4 children in their home. So it is a bit of a different service type in that it is one educator with 4 children in the educator's home. So they do usually, and I know, speak from experience with council's family daycare scheme, that there are a lot of compliance checks and regulatory checks that they go through to be able to be allowed to look after children in their home. So it is usually, it's usually very safe family daycare. So.
And what do you think are the main benefits in children attending, let's say, those different, if you like, those different services? Are they actually, do you think they're picking up key skills or learning things that will help prepare them better for school down the track?
Most definitely, most definitely. The biggest one I would say to families is the biggest benefit is it's their time away from you. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but once they get to school, you are not going to be there. The parents are not going to be there, and you can't be there. So this is a bit of a practice for that. So the biggest thing is that it gets them to be independent and learns, and they learn to be away from you for a short period of time. So once they get to school, they're going to have to be away from their parents from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon for 5 days a week. So that's a big time when you're little. You're little and you've never been away from mum and dad before. So by sending your child to one of the education and care service types, it gives them the opportunity to spend that little bit of time away from you and get used to not having mum or dad there constantly. It does build up their self-help skills in that they do learn how to put on their shoes by themselves, how to feed themselves, how to look after their own belongings, which is a big thing once they get to school. I know a lot of mothers and fathers have come to me saying, oh, they can't keep track of their hat or their school jumper or their school bag, or they've lost their lunchbox. Going to an education and care, an early education and care service, gives them the opportunity to be able to get that independence, to know their own belongings and look after their own things. There are also the benefits, the traditional benefits of going to education and care, where they learn how to write their name, what their name looks like, how to count, those the shapes, the colours, those kinds of traditional things that you would expect a child to learn when they go to early education. But the biggest ones for me is that social aspect and engaging with other children. So I know a lot of families may only have one child and their extended family lives overseas. So their access to other children their own age is very limited. So by attending an education and care service, they're able to engage with children their own age and build up that relationship and that negotiation. Because I know they'll have to share and you know, negotiate and learn to engage with other children, and they do all of that at an education and care service.
Yeah. Another, it's not as common, but I do get asked the question at times around that home to school transition, and quite often parents see pre-K and they think, oh, I'm actually enrolling my child in formal schooling, but pre-K doesn't necessarily mean that, does it? So maybe can you talk about that distinction and in terms of, like, let's say preschool, making that transition from preschool to then formal education, which would be, in this case, kindergarten?
Yes, definitely. So a lot of education and care services that offer a preschool program, and that would be traditional preschools as well as any long day care service would have to offer a preschool program. They do focus on that transition to school. So a lot of services would have built up a rapport with their local school. I know a few of them have when we were able to. I know we can't do that at the moment because of COVID and the lockdown, but they did hold little excursions to the local public school to give the children the access and the exposure, I guess, to what school looks like. That there is a canteen, that there is a classroom, and this is where you put your bag, those kinds of things. A lot of the schools in the area will also have an orientation where they will invite families to come and visit. I do know a few of them have very extensive transition to school orientations where they do it for 2 full terms, where they have the little ones coming to kindy the following year attend and engage in a little activity for about an hour every Wednesday or something similar to that for 2 full terms. So by the time they start school, they already know it all. They've already been and experienced the school. So a lot of schools are moving into that model, and a lot of schools potentially would have their own preschool on site. I know a few of the public schools in the area and a few independent schools in the area have their own pre-K or their own, I think they call them preschool or kindy on site. That makes that transition a little smoother, where the families attending have the opportunity just to have their kids move straight up into kindergarten, into that first year of formal schooling. So yeah, did that answer?
Yeah, no, definitely. So do you have any tips or ideas to share with parents around how they can go about searching for a good quality sort of educational setting? Because there's quite a lot of services out now, a lot of childcare centres, a lot of preschools, and any ideas on how they may navigate and find something suitable for their child?
Yeah, definitely. There are, I do know, because I've researched this quite recently, about 150 education and care services that operate just within the Cumberland local government area. So that's a lot. That's a lot of services. The first thing I would always say to families, I know it's a bit tricky in this time because everyone's locked down and not a lot of services are letting people on site. But the best way to figure out your feeling about a service is to go and visit. If there is one close by with walking distance to you, go and visit and get a feel and a feel for the service. Because if you are uncomfortable walking into a service, or if you get a bad feeling from a service, then your child will also pick up on that. So by going to visit and you having a look at the environment and knowing that you are comfortable with the environment and the educators, by meeting the centre director or you know, the teachers or whoever's working there, you build up that level of comfort within yourself and your child will pick up on that. So if you are comfortable leaving your child there, then your child will be comfortable. Even though sometimes they might start off a bit unsure and a bit sad and there might be a few tears at the beginning, if you are comfortable, your child will be comfortable. So that's the biggest tip that I always give to families when choosing anything, when choosing a school or choosing an education and care service, that if you go and get a good feeling, then it's the place for you. The other thing to look at is to ask a few questions, particularly around the food that they serve, if that's something that your child has trouble with, like if you know that your child's a fussy eater, do they have the opportunity for you to bring food from home if your child really doesn't like the food there? Those kinds of things. Also looking at the service type. So looking at what's going to suit you. So if having that 9 till 3 is going to suit you, then definitely look for a preschool, a traditional preschool. However, if you would like to start your child a little bit earlier and leave them a little bit longer, then looking at a long daycare setting would probably be more appropriate for you to look at. The other thing to ask is about the fees, and I know some of them can be quite expensive, but they do vary in fees, like across the board. So that's also something to consider.
And on that note, some parents may think it's too expensive for me to send my child to, let's say, preschool or childcare. Is there any support out there for parents that may be able to help them with that cost?
There definitely is. There is, Centrelink does provide something called the childcare subsidy. It unfortunately is only for families who are citizens and have so there are certain visa types that are exempt that aren't, that don't have access to that subsidy. If that's the case, then there are services that do offer support. So Early Ed, I know, and Settlement Services International, they do offer some support and relief for families who are looking for care but cannot afford it because they don't have access to the subsidy. There is also the different service types that I mentioned. So if, for example, you do want your child to get that access and exposure to other children in that social aspect, then maybe occasional care is a better model for you, in that you only pay for what you use. So you're not paying for the full day, you're paying for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day. So your child can get access to other children, have a play, engage with the teachers, engage with the activities, the educational activities that are offered, and then you pick them up. So if you're not utilising care for working reasons or studying reasons, then potentially that family daycare or occasional care model would be best suited for you for financial reasons. Yeah.
And do childcare centres or early education and care services, do they actually help parents secure those subsidies that they're entitled to, or does the parent need to go to Centrelink and apply? How does that work?
Definitely. So the services can definitely help you with that. When I'm not so sure, like back when I first started a long time ago in education and care, families had to apply to Centrelink for their CRN, which was a child reference number. Now, I think because most families get a payment from the government once they have a child, they get that automatically. So you just need to quote that number to the Education and Care Service and let Centrelink know that you are attending a centre, like a childcare centre, you found care for your child and you will be attending, and they will be able to work out the subsidy for you because it is means tested. So it depends on your yearly income as to how much Centrelink will support you with the payment. Okay. But definitely the Education and Care Service that you choose will have that knowledge and will be able to help first-time families who haven't accessed care before through that process.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the beginning you work for Cumberland Council. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about things the council has for families and young children that our parents may be able to access?
Definitely. So if engaging your children in early education and care isn't possible for financial reasons or just something that you don't feel is necessary, but you're still looking for that that interaction and that engagement with other children and families, my team, so the Children's Development team, offer quite a few activities that you can access. So through Paint Cumberland Red, we run story times with our mascot Poppy the Possum. I'm not sure if many of the families have seen Poppy. She's a big, I think I actually have a picture of Poppy here I can show you. So there's there's Poppy the possum just there. So I'm not sure if your families have seen her before around, but we do have regular story times with Poppy the possum. We also have the Bush School at Central Gardens. At the moment, it's on hold because of COVID, but we do have a virtual Bush School that the families can access via the Cumberland website. And we do have some story times with Poppy on there as well that you can access that we posted last year. But the Bush School is an all-natural environment at Central Gardens in Merrylands that we run sessions on the first and third Monday of every month. And it just gives families an opportunity to come and engage in nature. We don't use any man-made materials, and we do encourage the children to investigate and explore the natural environment without the use of blocks and things like that. It's all natural materials that they use.
That's a really lovely park too.
It is. It's lovely.
That has the animal enclosure
they have some
there.
Beautiful animals.
Yeah.
Definitely, they have some beautiful animals.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if we ask them very nicely, they do let us come over and look at they change their feeding time, so we can come over and see the animals getting fed after Bush School. But that's only if we're really nice. There's also our libraries, Cumberland City Libraries. At the moment, obviously, all of the story times are on hold, but each library does offer a story time free for the community to attend. So they have baby rhyme time, they have toddler story times and preschool story times. So depending on, and it's all age appropriate and tailored to the age group. They do have those online as well if your families are looking to do that. Also, as part of our Paint Cumberland Red initiative, we have community reading boxes. So I'm not sure if you would have seen them out and about.
Yeah, the red letter boxes that are
yes,
they're great.
We have those in a few of the parks and outside of some of the community centres as well. So it is a book exchange. So it's a leave a book, take a book, or you can just take a book or just leave a book. It's up to you. That is also another way for families to engage with their children around literacy.
And we will be including links in the description box below in relation to these services you're talking about. Definitely. But with the library, can you tell us a little bit about Storybox and also some of the multilingual books that they have in different community languages? Yeah,
definitely. So the library does have a vast collection of I'm pretty sure the term they use is their mother tongue collection. So it is a vast array of books and stories in community languages. So there are stories for children, so the traditional stories in the mother tongue for children, as well as novels and books that have been translated into community languages for adults. So if there are some adults that would like to broaden their reading, most of our libraries do have a multicultural or mother tongue collection. It is free to join the library, so there is no charge or anything like that. There is also they do also have a toy library, which has been put on hold for the time being. But once that gets up and running, families I think that is a small fee is involved in the toy library, but it is an opportunity for families to borrow toys instead of buying them. I know a lot of us have very limited space, so once our children start getting toys upon toys upon toys, it is really difficult to find space for them all. So they do have a toy library as well.
Great. And if there is one key message that you would like to leave parents with, what do you think that would be?
It is definitely the sing, play, read, touch and engage with your child from birth. That's definitely the biggest thing that we promote amongst the children's development team and also the education and care team. So just talking and engaging with your child from birth really does lead them in the right direction and go a long way into getting them ready to do those things like talking, reading, writing and learning when they get older. So that's the biggest thing, to engage with your child from birth, read to them from birth. It does make a difference, even if they're not giving anything back to you while they're a little baby in your arms. It's definitely putting them in the right direction.
Most definitely. And that's wonderful advice. Thanks so much again. I really enjoyed our talk today.
Thanks for having me.
Stay safe.
Thank you, you too. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.